for today is mental health in an uncertain world. What makes our world uncertain? Who has ever heard of this saying before? Man proposes and God. Why? That's what they told us. They told me to, like, yeah. I'm not disputing it all. I'm just saying that, have you ever found yourself in a situation whereby that doesn't even make sense anymore? As a therapist, I've come to understand that many of the issues that are non-pathological as far as mental health is concerned has a lot to do with unrealistic expectations. What does it mean for an expectation to be realistic and unrealistic? Can I have an example of a realistic expectation?
I expect to know the fundamental of Python before the end of next year.
He expects to know Pythons. Like, I don't know whether you want to watch for National Geographic Wild, but... Wait, I've said that I am not a tech bro. He said fundamentals of Pythons. I'm just trying to be naughty, you know. But that's still... All right. So that is an example of a realistic expectation, right? Like, I expect that by the end of this social period of time, I should be able to understand this. Now, remember, he didn't say that I should be able to know more than every other person in the industry. He didn't say that I'm going to cram the entirety of Python into my head. You know, he didn't set unrealistic goals for himself. Who can give me an example of an unrealistic expectation? Naira will become more valuable than dollar. All right, so these are unrealistic expectations. Somebody said, there's nothing that God cannot do. I doubt he wants to dabble into Nigeria's economy. But anyways. But the truth of the matter is this. When it comes to our mental health, it's not actually as clear-cut as we make it out to be. I think to other people's situation, we have better insights. Like, I can tell you that, that's my guy right there, you understand? And I can help him dissect his issues, you understand? And his thought process and all those things. But when it comes to me and myself, it becomes not as straightforward as that is. Right. Good. So, we understand this to be. Now, let's now look at the world entirely, you understand? And look at what kind of world we're talking about here. Now, there's the micro world. I call it the micro world, you understand? Which is like the world that you build around yourself. The world that you are the king of that metaverse, basically. See? Tech lingua, as in. All right, so, and that is your world, all right? I'm talking about the world of your emotions, your beliefs, your thought process, your expectations for yourself, your personality, you know, your happiness, your joy, you know, and all those things. Those are like your own personal world. But there is a kind of world, again, that is not personal to you. The world that you share with every other person in it, right? So let's take this place as a world. All right? This entire auditorium. As you can see, we are not sharing this place. We are sharing this place with other people. Some people are listening. Some people are, moving to the next place. Some people who are doing some other things, and some people, So it means that this particular world has quite a lot of variables that you and I are not in control of. Right? Variables that you and I are not in control of. Like, let's take, for instance, the noise level, for instance. I was speaking to somebody just before I came in, and I was like, that noise issue, there's nothing we can do about it. We can't get a quiet, environment. And that's because it is totally out of our control anymore. Many are times when people come into mental health treatment and be like, I want to talk about this, you understand, or this is going on with me, and that is going on with me. They don't account for the fact that not everything is within our control. And I can totally understand and relate with that. All right? What's the most precious thing to you now as a person? All right? It could be anything, you understand? Don't let anybody think that you are shallow or you are vain or anything. If your iPhone 14 is the most precious thing to you right there, so a laptop, The most precious thing to you could be your partner, it could be your sibling, it could be your parents, it could be your pet, It could be anything, right? When you have positive affect towards any kind of subject or object, you tend to want to be possessive and protective of that thing, right? So which means that if I say that, nice shoes, by the way, you understand, and I just walk, you understand, and I just step on it. Now, I know what it takes for you to keep shoe in a pristine condition like this. Ladies will not know the struggle, but, trust me. It means that you try to be mindful. In fact, it is so bad that when your shoe is original, there are some things that you cannot do with it. You can't run with it, which is number one. Like, that's a total no-no, right? You can't drive with it. So it's another thing, you understand. You have to off it, then wear something else, you understand. When you're down, you try as much as possible to avoid staircase, you understand, because it increases the crease at the front, you understand. And then you make sure that where you are going to, the place is without dirt, without all those things. And that is fine, right? Because you care about it, right? Good. Which now means that if anything should happen to that shoe, to that person, to that object, to that situation that you feel particularly connected to, you feel responsible for it. So it makes it seem like sometimes it is your fault that something bad has happened to it. And isn't that true about most of the things? Many a times we look at our current situations and we feel like we are responsible for what is going on, for what has happened to me, how I grew up, my current financial states, the fact that I'm still in Nigeria, you understand? And many of those other things that possibly have an adverse effect on our mental health. Now, the issue is this. Am I now saying that we shouldn't feel responsible for where we are? We shouldn't take responsibility for what happens to us? 100% you should. But I think this is where the problem lies. People mistake responsibility for taking blame. Permit me to say that as far as the science of mental health wellness is concerned, there's a huge difference between taking fault or blame of, incidences or occurrences and taking responsibility for it. Now, it could be possible that what you are taking responsibility for was actually as a result of your fault. That can happen, Many a times it does happen, right? So if I was watching TikTok, you understand, and at the same time I was just like, this guy is, this man is, you understand, and, I wasn't watching where I was going to, and then I fall into a manhole or something like that, and I break a leg. I am to blame for that thing, right? I can also take responsibility for it. Now, comes the difference in this situation. There are many times that things happen to us in life, and we blame other situations for it. I'll give you an example. In personality studies, there's a thing that we call locus of control. Okay? Locus of control basically means that what is the system that you attribute what happens to you in life to? Your locus of control can be internal or it can be external. When your locus of control is external, you attribute whatever happens to you, good or bad, to forces or situational variables outside your own control, your domain of control. Okay? So, we all went to school, right? So, if results just came out, you understand, and, like the school that I went to, they still used to paste it on the board. I have to go to the board, you understand, and I expected an 89A for this course, at least. But when I get there, and I check on the board, and I say 52C, I will say they gave me, what? They gave me. So, coincidentally, that same day, another course result was released. And in that particular course, you understand, I was expecting that maximum, maybe a 65B would be a good result, you understand, because it's not really my strong suit. So I went there, and I checked the results, saw my matric number, and I saw a 70A. When I'm going to report it, what am I going to say? I got. Now, that is the most basic, simplest way of demarcating between an internal locus of control and an external locus of control. Now, here is a cheat that I can tell you. If you are the kind of person that wants to contribute to the growth of an organization, If you are the kind of person that you are not it's okay if you don't want to be a CEO. I've never really seen myself as a CEO before because I don't think I have the business acumen to, but then bring something to me, your son, and I can add human factor into it, your son, and help it grow. I can be part of something great. I don't necessarily have to pioneer something great. And that is a valid thing for me. And it should be a valid thing for anybody. And the same person that wants to become the CEO of multiple companies as well, it is also what? Valid as well. Right? So for those of you that want to go into the line of, hey, I want to be, a top executive, in a company, in whatever it is that I do. Employers typically look for people with internal locus of control as against external locus of control. Because what? These are people that typically take responsibility for what is happening. Outcomes that comes around their job space. Even if it is something outside their control. And that is the issue here. All right? So the problem is this. Just because something is your fault, okay, you have to take responsibility for it. And something is not your fault, you have to take responsibility for it. So what does responsibility itself mean? Like we said before, people with external locus of control will blame other things, other situations for the outcome, right? That lecturer, the economy, village people, And it's not, we all think village people is not a valid thing, but it is. I think it is, right? Are there spiritual people here? You understand, fine. If there are none, even people that are not spiritual still believe in something. You believe in things like karma. You believe in things like destiny. You believe in things like fate, and things like that. Fate brought you to me. Hey! I just have this feeling that we belong together. That feeling is responsible for the situation, you understand? I don't know what I did to deserve you. That means that this is not my work. This is not my doing. Something else brought you. You can see external. Whenever the person attributes the causative factor, the person is always thinking outside. So it will be difficult for that kind of a person to fully integrate what it means to be responsible for what happens to you in life. And the reason why this is important to the top discourse of today is because the world is uncertain. There's nothing certain about the world that we live in. Let's take Nigeria, for instance. Can you tell me what is certain about Nigeria? Except for the negative things that you are pretty sure. Is it politics? Is it economy? Is it security? Is it education? What is it that we are enjoying? Let's say marriage or relationship. Even that one self is still not sure, right? You could be in your house, you understand, watching the football, you understand, and, small rain will fall, you understand, and then DSTV will not work again, You have money to take yourself to the hospital, you understand, but you are not sure that you are going to get the care that you need. You are putting money in investment, and you are not sure if your investment is secure or safe. You're not even sure if where you are building your house is going to be underwater in the next 5 years. There are so many things outside our reach of control. And yet, Shala is saying that the optimal thing that anybody can do to yourself, that you can invest in yourself when it comes to mental health wellness, is taking responsibility. So that means that this word responsibility has to be quite different from what? Apportionment of blame. I'll give you a therapy situation. Either I'm the therapist or the client in this case. And this person has been raped multiple times. This person has lost, siblings. Everybody that has been there, supposed to be there, you understand? Uncles raped, boyfriend raped, lecturers raped, you understand? And all those things. And this person has all the justifiable reason to have a mental health breakdown. Like, I don't know who can shoulder half of that and would not scatter. But then the person has been in therapy with me. And I'm having this discussion with the person. Like, you have to take responsibility. Now, if I have not properly explained the difference between responsibility and apportionment of blame, the person can be angry. That's why sometimes in therapy, I've had clients walk out on me. I've had water spilled at my face, and I was kind enough to even offer the person water. And the water that I offered ended up on my body, you understand? I've had physical assault, and it's just part of it, because sometimes when information is being communicated, there's a lot of noise, like here right now. And sometimes the noise can be your own preconceived notion of what you think the person is saying. So that person will obviously become defensive. What do you mean? Like, have you ever been raped? Do you know what it means? Do you know this? Do you know that? And you're talking about responsibility. What about them? What do you do? Okay, but the truth of the matter is this. Number one, they are not in therapy. You are. Number two, whatever has happened to you, as hard as it sounds, it cannot be undone. Number three, the only thing that we are sure of right now is the need for you to what? Recover and forge ahead with your life. So which would you rather do? Stay in the past and then continue to, let's be doing this pointing of fingers and things like that. Or you want to take active steps into mental health, wellness, and becoming the best version of yourself, regardless of what has happened to you in the past, or regardless of what can happen to you now, or regardless of what can happen to you in the future. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what taking responsibility means. That is what taking responsibility means. So, taking responsibility for your mental health, taking responsibility for your personal growth, taking responsibility for every other factor that is pertaining to your development is not about who is responsible for the failure or the success, but it's about who is responsible for taking the active step towards wellness. So yes, somebody can inflict pain on you. Somebody can steal your laptop that you used, one plot of land worth, to buy. And, somebody can do something bad to you. Those are the factors that you are not in control of. And they are very much present in our day-to-day. If you decide to ignore those factors, then that is delusional. You are living in a bubble that is not realistic. Delusional means for somebody to live without giving the due respect to the reality of life. I like it when people say that anything can happen to anybody. And that is the reality of life. We hope anything does not happen to us. We only hope that the things that happen to us are the things that we want and the things that will better us. Because, of course, we are pre-wired to, survival instinct, self-preservation and things like that. But the reality of life is that we are not shielded. We are not special to the point that those things cannot affect us. And when they do affect us, we have to take responsibility. Okay? Whether that means that you have to say, this is my fault, or whether that means that you have to say that, okay, this is not my fault, but for me to move ahead from here, it is my responsibility to take the steps forward. It's like somebody using his Okada to break your leg, and you're saying that, you broke this leg, you have to fix it. The truth of the matter is that even if the person pays money for your medical care, the rehab, the physiotherapy, you understand, the living with the fact that, I have to use crutches for a while, or, it is still about your mental, it is still you, all right? The motivation to look at yourself and look beyond your physical disability is still left to you, all right? And that is the thing sometimes that gives us the edge in an uncertain world. The reason why many of us will thrive, regardless of what is happening to us, is because what? We take responsibility for where we are. So I'm not just going to sit down and say that, this economy, Buhari, if only that my uncle decided to fund my going to UK, I would have been better now. Which could be true. I'm not denying that fact. But then, those things are not going to happen. So what are you going to do? Are you going to lie down, relax, and give up? Or are you going to look for what? Other ways to what? Actualize your dreams and what you have for yourself. And I'm going to round up with this. Another problem that you might face when dealing with uncertainties in this world is, we've been talking about things outside that you cannot control, and you still have to take responsibility for how you're going to move on from there. Another one is expectations. And this is a very, very problematic issue. As far as mental health is concerned anyway. Expectations. And the question is this: what are expectations? What we want to come to us? What we hope to happen? You understand? If I do this, like cause and effect, right? If I put 100K, I should be able to get 150K out of it, right? Sure. If I upload this picture that I spent 10,000 naira for editing and everything, you understand? I should be able to get how many likes? 100 likes, Abi. Expectations, right? If I do this, this would happen to me. Sometimes, while you are doing your there's nothing wrong with having expectations, because sometimes people will think expectation is the same thing as dreams. But you have to manage your expectation. And what does it mean to manage it? It's not to dream less. It's not to dream small. It's not to restrict yourself. That's not what manage your expectation means. It just means that when you are expecting this, make allowances and provisions for things that are not outside your control. Like while you are applying for those schools, you understand, and you want to get those admissions, you want to get those funding, you want to get this and you want to get that. Also make room for what? The eventuality that you don't get it. Because you're not the only one putting for it. There is no academic success that you have that another person doesn't have more than you. You are not the best at what you are doing, even though we try to tell ourselves that, you might be the best now, tomorrow you might not be the best anymore, because another technology would have been invented, somebody else knows more about it than you do. So sometimes managing your expectations is also a very, very important way for us to manage our mental health in a world that is not certain. So with this few points of mine, I hope I've been able to convince you rather than to confuse you. All right. Thank you very much.